Mommy! If you're looking for the most effective and efficient way to naturally induce labor at home, then you are in the right place.
In this video, we are going to share with you the exact tools which could help you go into labor within 12 and 72 hours. Plus, we're also going to tell you exactly how to make sure that whatever you do to naturally induce labor at home is more likely to be a success.
I am Natalie, a pregnancy and birth consultant and TCM therapist.
And I am Matthias, a researcher and science geek, and we love helping mummies and their babies naturally and science-based.
For more useful tips and tools on pregnancy and baby-related topics, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. We are so happy that you're watching this because I have seen the tools that we are going to share with you today work for so many women at my clinic. Just remember to get the approval of your healthcare provider first before you try anything that we mention in this video.
Alright, so one of the most effective tools to naturally induce labor at home is nipple stimulation because it can release oxytocin in your body. And this could help you get the kind of contractions which could send you into labor within 48 and 72 hours.
However, from what I observe at the clinic, and this is also what scientists have found, nipple stimulation is more likely to work for women whose cervix is soft and who have gotten at least some contractions before they start with nipple stimulation.
Right.
So, if there are no signs that labor is approaching, then a better way to naturally induce labor at home is to prepare your body for labor first before you try nipple stimulation.
Yes, and this is when it can make sense to apply what we call labor acceleration tools, like for example acupressure, which we are going to discuss later in this video. Such tools can help you prepare your body for labor by softening your cervix and by releasing the right kind of hormones, ideally to help you get those first contractions.
Yes, so these tools basically help your body get to a point where you can indeed induce labor naturally at home, for example with nipple stimulation, because now it is much more likely to work for you.
And just a final note on nipple stimulation. According to clinical studies, nipple stimulation seems to be safe for the mother. However, it seems to cause an abnormally low heart rate in about 1 to 3% of all babies. So please talk to your healthcare provider first about monitoring your baby.
By the way, obviously we're going to teach you exactly how to apply nipple stimulation. However, we decided to do this at the end of this video so that it is easier for you to follow our video. In addition, you can find detailed instructions on how to apply nipple stimulation in our natural labor induction guide, which you can find in our video description. It is the exact guide that I offer all women at my clinic as a handout.
Okay, so if nipple stimulation does not work for you, or if it's not going fast enough for you, then you have castor oil as an alternative to help you naturally induce labor. In fact, in clinical studies, castor oil was able to help women go into labor within 12 and 48 hours.
Right, and this also kind of reflects what I mostly observe. But as always, there is a teeny tiny catch. Castor oil seems to work much better for women who have given birth to at least one child in the past already.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea about what to expect, about 70% of those women go into labor within 48 hours after drinking a castor oil cocktail. On the other hand, only some 40% of the women who are giving birth to their first child go into labor within the same period of time.
The other thing is, similar to nipple stimulation, castor oil seems to work much better and faster to naturally induce labor if your body is ready for labor. So again, if your body is not showing any signs that labor is approaching, consider applying a combination of our labor acceleration tools first, which we are going to discuss in just a minute.
Yeah, and two final remarks on castor oil. First, when scientists administer castor oil in their studies, they usually combine 60 milliliters of castor oil with either 200 milliliters of water or orange juice. However, they neither increase the dose nor repeat the experiment if the cocktail is not working. Second, safety-wise, scientists have not found any adverse effects of castor oil on the baby, despite what many rumors claim on the internet, right? However, please keep in mind, castor oil is a laxative. It will almost certainly make you feel nauseous. Moreover, it seems to cause diarrhea and vomiting in about 7% of all women.
Okay, so again, both nipple stimulation and castor oil are super effective ways to naturally induce labor at home. However, they are only likely to work if your body is ready for labor.
Yeah, and this makes total sense, right? Because if your cervix is not soft, then it cannot dilate. Likewise, if your body does not produce the right kind of hormones, you cannot get any contractions.
In other words, make sure that your body is ready for labor before you even try anything to naturally induce labor.
Yeah.
And if there are no signs that labor is approaching, consider preparing your body for labor first with our labor acceleration tools. So let us quickly walk you through them.
Okay, so the first thing that you can do to prepare your body for labor is eating dates. We know it sounds odd, however, according to scientists, it's a great way to help soften your cervix so that it can dilate once you decide to naturally induce labor.
Yes. Ideally, you start eating about 60 to 80 grams of dates per day in week 37 of your pregnancy, or about 3 weeks before your due date or planned induction date. And don't worry if you are already way beyond that 3 weeks mark. Do it anyways. It can only help you accelerate the time to labor.
Yeah, and if you want to naturally induce labor super fast, like tonight, please bear with us. We are going to discuss what your options are at the end of this video.
Exactly. So, the next labor acceleration tool on our list are either acupuncture or acupressure.
Right. Scientists have found that both acupressure and acupuncture can help soften your cervix, which of course is exactly what we want, right? In addition, both can help your body relax. And relaxation is extremely important to release oxytocin to get your contractions going.
Exactly. Ideally, you would start with either acupuncture or acupressure in week 37 in order to optimally prepare your body. But even if you're way past that date, or you only have 1 or a couple of days to either have acupuncture or acupressure, do it anyways. Moreover, it is advisable to see a professional acupuncturist. However, if you don't like needles, go for acupressure.
Yeah.
It's almost as effective as acupuncture when it comes to labor preparation, if done correctly.
Yes, and since Natalie is a TCM therapist, she is obviously going to teach you exactly how to correctly apply acupressure later in this video. Plus, it is also covered in our PDF guide that you can find in the description below this video. Now, before we go over to our next labor acceleration tool, can we quickly ask you a question? How are we doing so far? Is it easy to follow our video? We would be super grateful if you could take a moment and give us some feedback in the comment section below. Tell us what you like or don't like about our video, or simply subscribe to our channel and or like this video so that we know that you have found it helpful. Any feedback is more than appreciated because it helps us enormously to improve our videos. Thanks so much.
Okay, our next labor acceleration tool is exercising. Given that your healthcare provider allows it, I recommend starting with exercising to prepare your body for labor at least from week 38 of your pregnancy onwards. In fact, the closer you get to your due date or planned induction date, the more important exercising becomes, particularly if you want to go into labor fast. A lethargic body who is not used to get moved will have a much harder time going into labor naturally. I see this all the time at the clinic.
Yeah, that's also what scientists have found, by the way. So what kind of exercises can you do? Well, scientists recommend going for a 30 minutes walk at least 3 times a week at a speed of about 2.4 miles per hour.
However, what I rather have you do, if your healthcare provider allows it, is doing exercises on a birthing ball.
Yes, scientists have found that women who are doing exercises on a birthing ball in their late pregnancy have a much better Bishop score, which is basically a measure for how ready your cervix is for labor. On top of that, they also have much higher oxytocin levels and severe uterine contractions. And if your body is ready for it, such exercises could even help you with contractions. Therefore, exercises on a birthing ball are definitely a great labor preparation tool if your plan is to naturally induce labor at home. Just make sure you're not wearing super slippery socks when you do these exercises, as otherwise it could happen that you smash 2 vases at once in an attempt to keep your balance.
No idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you do.
Anyways, by the way, we don't teach exercises on a birthing ball in this video. However, what we are about to do is to record a separate video in which we teach you exercises on a birthing ball for labor preparation and induction. And if it is already online by the time when you watch this video, you should now be able to see a link pop up at the top of your video screen.
Right, and don't worry, she won't be wearing socks in that video. Alright, so our final labor acceleration tool to help you prepare your body for labor is reflexology. We would normally start with reflexology for labor preparation in the second half of week 38 of your pregnancy. However, it really depends where you are right now. Even if you can only just apply it for 1 or a couple of days, it's better than not doing it at all. But you will need a partner for it.
Yes, and ideally you have a partner who doesn't fall asleep while he applies reflexology.
That was a one-time thing only, and it happened after a very long day at the office.
Fair enough. Anyways, I love reflexology because it allows me to do so many things. For example, I can help a woman engage the baby by working on her pelvis, which can also help soften her cervix. I can also support her body release oxytocin by stimulating her pituitary gland, which is responsible for the release of that hormone. I can even work on her uterus by stimulating the area which represents her uterus, and many more. Therefore, it's definitely a great tool to help accelerate the time to labor and prepare your body for it.
And if you have a partner who does not fall asleep, then you could even try reflexology at home. We teach you how to apply it at the end of this video. In addition, you can find a detailed step-by-step guide in our labor induction guide. Okay, so those were our 4 labor acceleration tools, which can help you speed up the time to labor by preparing your body for labor. And just to make it very clear, applying these tools can already be enough to send you into labor completely naturally, depending on where you are in your pregnancy journey.
However, if that does not happen, or if it's not going fast enough for you, then you can apply our labor induction tools, because now that your body is ready for labor, they are much more likely to work. Just keep in mind that there is no guarantee for success, no matter what you try to naturally induce labor, because there are many things involved which you don't have any control over.
Right. Now, before we teach you how to apply the tools from this video, there is one question left that remains unanswered. What is a woman supposed to do who wants to go into labor super fast, like tonight?
Well, if a woman wants to go into labor that fast, then she needs to ask herself if she can realistically do that. And the more signs there are that labor is approaching, the more realistic it will be for her to go into labor that fast, for example, after a castor oil cocktail, without preparing her body for labor first. And this will probably apply to women who are either close to or past their due date, right?
Right.
However, if on the other hand, a woman was in, let's say, week 38 of her pregnancy and wanted to naturally induce labor with no signs that labor is approaching, then realistically the chances of going into labor after a castor oil cocktail would be much lower. Although in theory it could still work. But in that case, it would be best to first prepare her body for labor for as long as she can reasonably allow herself before she tries anything to naturally induce herself.
Right. And we do apologize if that only seems like a vague description of what you should do, but the problem is we don't know your particular case. And that makes it extremely difficult for us to come up with a specific action plan in an online video.
Yeah.
We hope you do understand that. With that said, if you still feel kind of lost as to what to do next, don't worry. The PDF guide that you can find in our video description includes some further explanations about what your options are in each situation. Plus, it explains in detail how to apply the tools that we've mentioned in this video. Which leads me to the final part of this video, in which we teach you how to apply acupressure, reflexology and nipple stimulation, and also how often to apply these tools. But we have recorded these parts earlier today. Therefore, we already say goodbye to you at this point before we show you these recordings.
Thanks for watching, and please remember to leave us a feedback in the comment section below, or simply like and share our video if you have found it helpful. We really appreciate each and every one of your reactions, because your feedback helps us a lot to improve our videos.
And for more useful tips and tools on pregnancy and baby related topics, make sure to subscribe to our channel and to hit the bell.
First of all, position one of your hands like I'm doing it here. Then look for the highest point on the muscle. It is located right behind the fold between your thumb and index finger. When you put your thumb of your other hand on that point and then open your thumb and index finger, the point is supposed to be at the center of that little triangle that forms between the bones of your thumb and index finger. Firmly press and massage the acupressure point for about 10 to 30 seconds. Afterwards, do exactly the same on your other hand. Next, you first need to find the highest point of your medial ankle bone on the inside of one of your legs. Then you need the approximate width of your 4 fingers. If your partner helps you, he is supposed to take the width of your 4 fingers. If you do it yourself, simply place your fingers right next to the highest point of the medial ankle bone. Your new point is located right next to the bone at the end of your fingers. From there, simply move a tiny little bit away from the bone until you can feel a fleshy webbing. That soft point is the acupressure point that you want to firmly press and massage for about 10 to 30 seconds. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other leg. Next, find the tendons between your big and second toe from one of your feet. Move upwards along the tendons until you feel a bony prominence. From there, move with your finger between the tendons back towards your toes. You should now feel a fleshy webbing, which is your acupressure point. Press and massage it for about 10 to 30 seconds. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other foot. Next, find the highest point of your ankle bone, but this time on the outside of one of your feet. Then find the Achilles tendon. The acupressure point you're looking for is the midpoint on an imaginary straight line between the 2 points. Firmly press and massage it for about 10 to 30 seconds. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other foot. The next point is located slightly below the edge of your toenail on the outside of your little toe. Firmly press and massage it for about 10 to 30 seconds. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other foot. For the next point, you first need to find your shin and the lower border of your kneecap on one of your legs. Then you need once again the width of your 4 fingers. Place that width right below the lower border of the kneecap. The new point is located right next to your shin at the end of your fingers. From there, move a tiny little bit away from the shin until you feel a fleshy webbing. this is the acupressure point you're looking for. Firmly press and massage it for about 10 to 30 seconds. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other leg. For the final point, you will definitely need a partner. First of all, tell your partner to find your spine. This is quite easy. If you bow your head, your partner should be able to see and feel a large bony prominence close to your neck. This is your starting point. Afterwards, tell him to find the ends of your shoulders. The acupressure points you are looking for are the midpoints between the spine and the ends of your shoulders. They are located on the highest point of your shoulders. Once your partner has found them, tell him to firmly press and massage them with his thumbs from above for about 10 to 30 seconds. The first reflexology point we focus on represents the pituitary gland, which is responsible for the release of oxytocin. So the aim of stimulating that point is helping the body establish that hormonal balance that is required so that it can go into labor eventually. So first of all, your partner needs to find the approximate center of your big toes. Then he needs to press his thumbs against these points in a slightly upward direction. This is easier to accomplish when your partner secures your toes from behind with his fingers. He should now firmly press and massage the toes for at least 1 minute. Moreover, he can alternate between firm pressure and firm rotating movements if he likes. The next reflexology point represents the uterus, which we want to prepare for contractions. To find the point, you first need to find the highest point of the medial ankle bone on the inside of one of your legs. Then find the approximate end of the bone of your heel. Draw an imaginary straight line between the 2 points and take the midpoint of that line. Your partner should now massage the point as well as the area above and below the point for at least 1 minute. He can alternate between rotating movements, rubbing as well as firmly pressing the point. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other leg. Next, we focus on your nervous system in order to help you relax. That's because relaxation is a major prerequisite for the body to establish that hormonal balance that we talked about earlier. In order to find the area that represents your nervous system, simply palpate along the bone on the inside of your foot starting at the bony prominence below your big toe and finishing on the point which represents your uterus from the previous step. So the line that you can see here is located right on the edge of the bone. Tell your partner to massage 3 to 4 times from one side to the other side. Alternatively, he can also start at the center of the imaginary straight line along the bone and move with both thumbs into opposite directions. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other leg. The last point represents your pelvis. We stimulate that point in order to engage your baby because the pressure of the baby's head on the cervix will help soften the cervix and bring it into the right position. And second, it can help with pelvic pain, which is often an issue in pregnant women, as I know from personal experience. What your partner has to do here is really simple. Your heel represents your pelvis. And so your partner simply needs to massage your heel for at least 1 minute in various ways. For example, rotating movements, massaging from one side to the other side, massaging upwards and downwards, pressing firmly against the heel, etc. Whatever you find most convenient. Afterwards, do exactly the same on the other foot. Gently tweak and rub your nipples with your fingers. And do make sure that you include the darker area around your nipples, i.e. the areola too. Alternate between stimulating your nipples with your fingers and stimulating them with your whole palm. When you use your palm, place it over the areola and move it in circles. You can apply firm pressure, however be gentle. Alternatively, you can also use a breast pump if you like. Moreover, stimulate one breast for 15 minutes, then spend 15 minutes on the other breast. Do this twice so that you stimulate your breasts for 1 hour overall.